17 years in the college. I turned 18 there when I graduated, and I entered the university to study business administration. At the same time, I started at my father's fabric of towels and sheets. That fabric worked for 40 years, one of the most important textiles fabrics in the country. In the 90s, when I arrived to the fabric, I took the management of all of the sales of the business in more than 40 countries. It was very easy for me because I spoke many languages. I started to travel and make sales. At 18, I started my first industry of fashion clothes. You were a businessman since you were very young. You started very, very young, at a very young age. You took your learnings from your father. When I was 21 years old, I was earning, I was doing more than 15 jobs. I started to incursionate as an investment. Also, even when I was very young, you did an international work. All the products that we did was sold in several countries. Of the towels, the first market was the United States, mainly. In my own fabric, the main places where we sold our products was in the United States and Mexico and Venezuela. Towels, Venezuela was one of the main markets for my towels production. That's how you got involved with Venezuela. I think the first time I came to Venezuela, I was 19 years old, and I came with my father here in Caracas by plane in a straight flight from Barranquilla to Maiquetía. Marshers, we call it. We sold all of our towels from the warehouses. The fabric was called textile fabric. When did you get involved with Venezuela? When I was 20 years old, approximately, I started to participate as an investment in Colombia. I got involved with the constructive activity. What did you build? I built houses, residential houses, apartments. During President Chavez's term, there was a revolution of the 1999 year. The president, I used to travel a lot to Venezuela in that time. We wanted to come to Venezuela. When Chavez began his term, there was no space in hotels and airplanes. We sold lots of products in Venezuela. The economic trade between Venezuela and Colombia was huge. President Chavez created the house mission, which had the purpose to build 3 million homes for Venezuelan people in the time. That was huge. You were asked to build 2 million homes in April 2012. That's when the mission kicks off. After that, you were asked to build 3 million of homes. We fulfilled that purpose. During these days, we are giving over 4 million homes, and our goal is to keep growing the building of homes. To achieve that goal, we needed to diversify our method to constructive methods. I had the exclusivity for Venezuela of a constructive system in Europe that made very fast and very economic the constructive process. The cement was, we took 1 year, all of the 2010 year, applying that method in Venezuela, working. In 2011, we got approved, our project was approved. We signed an agreement in the presence of President Chavez and Santos from Colombia. It was an agreement, a binational agreement, several enterprises from Colombia. I was one of the ones who signed the agreement with our system here in Venezuela. I remember that because I was a foreign minister at the moment. I spoke to President of Colombia, Juan Manuel Santos, and President Chavez, and a group of businessmen from Colombia and Venezuela who signed the agreement of development and investment in front of the president. Inclusive, that video is running through social medias still. Is a proof of resistance. There, you at that moment you were established here in Venezuela. Yes, I was practically here since 2009. That's how you set your basis here in Venezuela, your investment work. At the moment, I already had several years working here in Venezuela, fully. Barranquilla arepas with eggs are very famous. What was the most likable thing from Venezuela for you? What did you like? I liked the movement that was in the country, that was taking place in the country, the willing to keep growing, to develop a country with so many potentials and a human quality so impressive. Since the very first day I felt like I was home. People is very loving here in Venezuela. Since Chavez arrived, he taught the people to love Colombia. Chavez's love for Colombia was deep. He taught us that both peoples were brothers and sisters. We were one people among Venezuela and Colombia. The people strengthened its ties and love towards Colombia and vice versa. What Celia is saying, we always talk about this during decades. I think since Bolivar tradition, since Santander took the role in September of the year 28, then he tried to kill Bolivar at that moment. Then Bolivar pardoned his life. He saved him from the death. Bolivar saved Santander's life by revoking the penalty of death. Santander was exiled in Europe. In Venezuela, Páez was a traitor to the Libertador, Simón Bolívar. From Ecuador, a libertarian, also tried to destroy Bolívar's foundation. Bolívar was the one who built a Central American and Latin American potential, a territorial potential, economical, in economic terms and military terms, in Latin American wide. Bolívar came to defeat the most powerful Spanish military group. Since then, there was a heavy military campaign against Colombia. In Colombia, Bolívar was worshipped. Even in Colombia, during the 20th century, big historians from Colombia defended Bolívar, but our generation grew with a hate towards the Colombian people. It was very strong. It was induced during decades, I would say during all 20th century, to put each other as enemies, so there was no psychological conditions to rebuild Bolívar's project in the region. That's why they try to promote the hatred towards each other. The right wing to offend, calls Colombian people by the name of Colombian. What a pride for me would have been to be born in Colombia. I'm a Venezuelan person, but I would be so proud to be born in Colombia. There was a campaign for. I am so proud to have been born in Venezuela. I'm a great admirer of all the libertarians of the region. But in the case I would have been born in Colombia, I would have been so proud of that. Returning to the topic, with Chávez with Chávez in power, he reminds us all who gave the name to Colombia, who designed the flag of Colombia, Francisco de Miranda. He explains. He turned the issues back up. He opens love and cooperation with Colombia. That space is wide open. That's why later then, empires in Colombia have promoted a campaign of hatred against the Venezuelan people. And that's how you find this climax of brotherhood. Well, we keep working. I started incursionating into the food system. I imported foods in that period. From Colombia to Venezuela, from Turkey and other parts of the world, to bring food to the Venezuelan people. That's how it started, what I call the period of pre-sanctions, because since 2011, you could feel the pressure, the international pressure against Venezuela. The management of the banks of the banks abroad was very difficult. That's how you started. That at that moment, it was starting to be settled the blockade that would come in the years that followed. In 2015, the sanctions began to be more strong. In 2016, they were very strong. The price of the oil drops dramatically. Day by day, the situation in the country worsened. One day in Venezuela, we began. We're done with all our accounts, our bank accounts blockaded. They left us with no money in Venezuela. The country was left with no money. Many of us in that moment, many decided to leave the country. Others accepted the call of the government, your government, President Maduro, to stay and fight. I was one of the one who stayed to fight. We started to use all of our infrastructure to bring food and medicines and all the needs of the Venezuelan people. You spoke about the pre-blockade, which is like a bombardment of warnings to weaken the country. We lived the pre-blockade during the last years of Commander Chavez, which was the persecution of our bank accounts. When I assumed power, I faced all the doors closed for us from the international banks to finance our debts, to search financing from any project. The access to money, the one is our right to have for our country, for our economic strength. And that's when the persecution starts to businessmen who tried to fly abroad to bring Venezuelan people medicines, food. They are starting to be called. That's when the war begins among enterprises and Venezuelan people and Venezuelan businessmen are started to be persecuted. Who can forget all the long lines for the people to purchase food and medicines? How can we forget that moment? And all the campaign that was spread against us in social medias. No country could have faced that. That's when Obama's decree naming Venezuela as a threat, as a national threat, to beat us and deny the access for us to raw materials. That's when businessmen like you, I call all businessmen from the country to face this situation, that in this moment we knew it was going to be difficult. We didn't have an idea of how hard it was going to be for us, but they thought wrong about us. They launched all of their missiles to damage us as a country in 2015 and 2016, but they didn't achieve this. Trump arrived in 2018. How do you remember all these years? Those years were very, very hard for us. The first things that happens in a business when the production falls. Likewise, when there's no money entering the business, like any other country does in the agricultural sector and any other sector, then all the production of food starts to fail. I remember when I needed to purchase seeds to growing here in Venezuelan land, they didn't even want to sell us seeds. And if they did, they would sell them to us triple of their value. With the prices triplicated and duplicated, with high percentage of taxes. It was an asphyxiation campaign and a strategic. But we are made of steel. We have a soul of steel. They began to persecute businessmen and to solve those businessmen who tried to solve the problems of the Venezuelan people. They wanted to put pressure on the government, on the state, applying blockades, and try to asphyxiate all the businessmen who were trying to bring our basic goods to alleviate the Venezuelan people's situation amid this war. In the face of this situation and the lack of money, a good administrator would try to optimize all the goods it has in its favor. You as a president created it was all the maneuvers we did was intentioned to purchase all these food and medicines required. We would have been at a point of no subministration of products needed. We detected what the Venezuelan people needed and tried to focus our efforts in that matter. All public systems created and all the private systems created was damaged by the Balchaquerism, who sold the products at higher prices. So we tried to implement a new mechanism to provide people from all of the products we had at the moment, to give them to the people but in first hand for historical reasons of the impediment to access to seeds and goods. We went directly to the homes. Among other actors who defended the country and put their businesses in the service of the country. That's what Alex Saab did since 2017. In 2018, the situation was very critical. In April 2018, I was named Special Envoy, and I fully dedicate to travel the world to bring the basic needs that the government and the people needed as a public official. That's an important fact, because in 2018 we sent you as an ambassador with a diplomatic passport, with immunity, to move around the world in normal ways, with no difficulties, as it should be, according to the international conventions. Governments are obligated to respect the diplomatic immunity of all officials recognized by the government internationally. It doesn't matter if they are friendly governments or enemy governments. It doesn't matter. For that, there's international conventions. In 2019 and 2020, in 2020 we had a crisis, a gasoline crisis. Due to the blockade, we couldn't process the oil. Not because we were incapable to do that, but because we had no resources, no material, no raw material. They wouldn't even sell us raw materials. The situation was very difficult. In 2020, I remember I traveled in March. That was my first mission, to purchase oil and gasoline. Also traveled to purchase food and medicines. I faced many troubles to return to Venezuela at the moment, but I managed to make the ships and products to reach Venezuela. In 2020, I traveled for the third occasion in that year. Normally, I would travel through any international country through Argelia. Argelia denied the landing permission. At the moment we were even flying. We had to search for options. Pilots said that Cape Verde was the only option available to land. They warned us a few hours earlier. When Argelia refused us to land in their airport. We had to make that stop in Cape Verde. I was due to reach Iran, but we had to stop in Cape Verde to recharge or I was like 40 minutes in the highway waiting for the plane to recharge. I never traveled with my family in a mission, but my son, my oldest son, was with me. My son had contracted COVID, and he wanted to come along with me, so I don't have to travel alone. He was due to wait for me at the hotel. We were both together in the plane at the moment when two officials, rushing aggressively, say my name. I said, yes, I'm Alex Saab. I'm a diplomatic from Venezuela. No, they say, no, I don't care who you are. You have to come with us. He started to push me out of the plane with no shoes on. They took me to the stairs of the plane. They keep pushing me. The only concern I had was my son. I yelled my son, go, you need to go. I also said, this must be a mistake. They know I'm a diplomatic, and they know I have immunity. I couldn't believe what was going on. They put me into a car. I'm still yelling to my son. They cover my face up, and they take me, I think they take me to a salon at the airport with my face fully covered. They take me to some space at the airport. They say they need my credit card. They open my suitcase and take my credit card, my wife's credit card, because I had no credit card on me. I was sanctioned You were already sanctioned. Yes, I was. I was sanctioned in 2019. In 2019, there was a campaign to morally destroy, and for Alex Saab to retire from the activities of support of Venezuela and all these fights to overcome the blockade. You were attacked since then. In July 2019, I was sanctioned. My sons, my brothers also were sanctioned, who didn't even have any link to the government of Venezuela. The sanctions, they were sanctions because they were relatives of mine. Since 2019, I was sanctioned for working in the system of food, the food system of Venezuela. That was the objective of the empire. You are, at this moment, you are kidnapped and with your face covered. They say they are going to purchase a visa for me. They purchased a visa for the entry to Cape Verde with the credit card of my wife. That's when the time of the purchase was registered. There was no Interpol announcement, no previous warning. It was a fully kidnap with no cause, with no elements of accusation. They took me. They only wanted to take you and kidnap you in the most horrible way. That was one of the proofs that was used during the court of Cuas, that failed in 2 occasions on my favor, ordering my freedom in Cape Verde. Illegally Cape Verde. No. Cape Verde didn't listen to that call of freedom for me. What happens next? That first night, I was put in jail. No one spoke to me. The next day and night, I had no food, no water. At midnight, they start to talk to me, and they urged me to sign my voluntarily extradition to the United States. I refused. Then the control is they handcuffed me and seat me in a chair. They put out a towel. They put a towel on my face and start filling my face with water. So I had the sensation of drowning. They tortured me for over 2 hours. That was the first torture I received. In order for me to sign the extradition and made declarations against the government of Venezuela. They didn't say anything to me at the moment. They do not achieve their goal. So the next day, I was taken to a judge. That same day, the same torturers take me to speak to a judge. I was threatened, so I couldn't understand the judge. It was in Portuguese. At the moment, I was so overwhelmed. The judge took her face mask off, and I identified myself. I said I was on a special mission. That was registered in the tribunal. Since I was kidnapped, I had no communication. 48 hours I was brought in front of the judge, and I explained to her that I was in a special mission, that I was a diplomatic. They took me to a prison with no charges, no explanations. They took me to a prison in the South Island, which is in the middle of a desert. That's where the prison was. I was put in jail again. I spent the night in that jail. The next day, I was taken to the airport, and I thought immediately, well, I am going to be extradited. No one explained anything to me. I can hear the engines of the plane. No one explains anything to me. They made me go upstairs of the plane, and when I'm seated in the plane, I say, I'm drowning. I need to breathe. I need to. When they took the mask off of my face, still no one is speaking a word to me. I didn't know where I was going to. The island to another prison in San Vincent, in an island that is called San Vincent. They again put me in jail, a dark jail with no bathroom. I had no communication with my family. I was in the worst conditions, not even a bathroom. When I needed to go to the bathroom, I could only be out of the jail once a day. In a bucket. I had to go to the bathroom in a bucket. The first day I had no water. During the second day I had no option. I had to drink water. That's when I started to go on a hunger strike. I said I was not going to eat anything, but they said, okay, we are not going to give you anything. My family managed to, Camila managed to spoke to the people. At the 6th or 7th day, they managed to bring someone that brings me food. They received the person at the door of the prison, and then they reached the food for me. I was in total darkness. Sometimes I couldn't even see my hands. In no condition, in no health condition, with no light, in a total darkness, 24 hours. They opened the cell. That reminds me of the testimonies we have read for years of the brutal treatments of the fascist dictatorships of Chile, Uruguay, Argentina, how they managed that or use that kind of methods, bring from U.S. manuals of torture. If you read the biography of Pepe Mujica, he was kidnapped for 12 years in that same conditions. People with their face covered in the worst conditions, no one talked to him. That reminds me of that methods. Every night at 11 p.m. they took me out of the cell and take me to another cell every night until 5 a.m. every day. The food, they throw the food to me. They even touched the meals, and they threw the meals for me in the floor. In total darkness, I had to try to find the food even touching the floor. They had me in this situation for a month during the first month of June in 2020. I could listen to the other the other detainees, the other detainees managed to could get out of the cell during the days, but they were not allowed to approach me. One day, one of the detainees approaches to me and says in a Spanglish, and he says to me, "Look, you are going to be killed." All the detainees received $1,000, and they have a knife, and one of the detainees was asked to kill you. For the first time at that moment, there comes a guard and says, "You can call a lawyer, a local lawyer, for 5 minutes. You can make a call." That's when I thought, well, I'm going to get killed. Please warn my family. All of it was intentional. 30 minutes later, I was taken to another cell. I have the certainty that in the Sal Island they had all of the operation base, and then I was taken back to the Sal Island. In that island, the same night, that's when all the tragedy begins. I was beaten. There was a moment when I had my body full of bruises. They made cuts on my arms, not too deep, just enough to see the flesh and blood. I had lamps in my face. They pour alcohol on my scars, and they said that I was bleeding out, just to make me panic. They broke 3 tooths in my mouth, but I'm going to. They beat me a lot. That happened all the month. July, at the end of July, September, October. Almost every day I suffer from beatings. It was strong days, for they were trying. What were they asking you? At that moment, we were in quarantine due to the COVID. I said publicly when you came on September 20th, last September 20th. Those months, they strengthened the actions to take advantage of the pandemic situation. Instead of alleviate and cooperate with Venezuela amid this crisis, when the whole humanity was cooperating with each other, they strengthened the sanctions and the persecutions. They tried to asphyxiate the country to make, I can say, Alex, I can say now in front of your wife, our people gave a beautiful demonstration of discipline, of common effort and solidarity. We were in the month of June, July, August, very difficult months, and the medicines that you left purchased arrived in Venezuela. I can say one of them. For example, the Remdesivir, which was the most strong treatment to save lives from the COVID-19. When you were subjected to torture, there were millions of lives that were saving thanks to the medicines that you purchased and arrived to Venezuela. The gasoline arrived in Venezuela in a critical moment. The armed ships arrived in Venezuela. Two out of the 5 ships that you managed to send to us arrived. The other 3 were taken by the U.S. This is a moment where we were in quarantine. All of the food, we received all the food you sent to us. That's what we took. What were they searching for the torture? What were they asking to you? They tried me to help to stop all the food to reach in Venezuela. I don't know if you remember. 2 or 3 weeks after my kidnap, they sanctioned about dozens of ships that were linked to my work in the purchase of food and medicines. 200 ships sanctions. 200 ships were sanctioned at the moment. I had to call providers and said that no one was going to be able to pay them, that they were going to be sanctioned. They said that I had to give names because they wanted to collapse the government of Venezuela. I remember I said, but we're in the midst of a health crisis of the COVID-19. Millions of deaths could happen because of this. Their goal was to push for a government change. That's how I spent the first month of my kidnapping. The ships arrived, the planes arrived, all of the basic goods that you find for the Venezuelan people reached the Venezuelan people. Our people applauded you, all of your actions. Many times even without knowing from where all of those basic goods arrived. Our people was resisting. At the end of October, they started to desperate. They started to ask for more and more until there was a point that they pretended that I lied. All of the craziness. What they say very clearly, there's no time. We are going to invade Venezuela. We need you to give some statements, and Juan Guaidó is going to ask intervention, military intervention. That very last session was horrible. They even brought cameras to me and makeup. I ended up throwing out in the floor. Well, you didn't cooperate with our requirements, so you are going to die. They said, we are going to take you to Miami. If you say what we want you to say, we can take you to Miami with your family. You can even keep investing in Venezuela if you say what we want you to say. On October 28th, I was waiting for them to kill me. I didn't even know exactly what was going on, but no one came. So on November 16th, a guard came to me and said, Alex, there are a group of people from human rights are going to come here with the director of the prison. Yell. You need to yell that you are being subjected to torture. So when I heard that they were coming up, I started to yell. Well, they kept walking. They didn't listen to me. I still get very emotional when speaking about this. 10 minutes later, they came back. They opened the door and say, Alex, we are here for you. They verified that I was tortured. They say, this is not going to happen again. They fired the director Correa from the prison. He was fired. It is written in all reports. You can find when was the day that he was fired. That's when what I call the cleaning of the damages began. That's when the cleaning of the damages began. They didn't change my conditions in the prison, but there were no more tortures. I never saw those torturers again. Later on, I find out that on November 16th, Trump lost the elections on November 2020. That election was on November the 3rd. Well, on November 16th, there was a fact that that Joe Biden defeated Trump at the moment. There was a dispute that still there were claimings of fraud, but on November 16th, it was clear that Biden was the winner. There was a result in the U.S. So all of this had an objective, an aim. In the first place, was the stopping of all of the imports of medicines and fuels. The last torture had the aim. Celia and Camila, you who have been so crucial for this victory of Saab returning to the country. In the last torture, they wanted Donald Trump to be the winner of the elections in the U.S. At that moment, they were calling Leopoldo López, Machado, and Guaidó, Julio Borges, Capriles. All of them were calling for an invasion in Venezuela, for a military invasion. They called RPT-2. They were calling for an inter-American treatment. They were urging for all sorts of military interventions in Venezuela in that moment. I can say at the moment when you were standing still, knowing that you were right about Venezuela, we were alert to defend our people under any circumstance. I said to the people at the moment, in the face of any circumstance, we need you to be calm. That's what I said to the people. steel nerves, I said to always ready for the combat. That's how the people supported our government amid the COVID-19. We never left the people behind. We always were in touch with the people. We opened the path in 2021. How was for you after those horrible circumstances of the 2021? At the end of January 2021, I was transferred to a sort of house instead of a jail. It was a house in a suburb. The house where I was, all the houses nearby were taken by the army. There were approximately 50 people in uniforms with their face covered, and I was inside a room 24/7. The only difference I had is that I had a light and a bathroom, but the pressure was strong. The psychological pressure was difficult. They entered to my room and at any time unexpectedly and pointed a gun at me, but I received no other torture again. I fight a lot with the guards. When we won in ECOWAS, Cape Verde didn't listen, didn't agree. There was a decision of the tribunal that all of ECOWAS, Cape Verde appealed that, and ECOWAS ratified in 2021. They demand again my liberation, and they reiterated that my imprisonment was illegal. I appealed. I demanded the Minister of Justice of Cape Verde. We presented about 3 demands against all those who harmed me. I wanted to demand everyone who mistreated me, because justice must be fulfilled. United Nations, the work group of the United Nations, all of the the United Nations passed several resolutions to Cape Verde. In May 2021, they demanded my freedom. Cape Verde didn't achieve my freedom. The African Commission also failed in my favor and urged Cape Verde to release me, and Cape Verde didn't listen. And a day earlier of the elections in Cape Verde, that president commented that he had to fulfill the order of releasing me. A day earlier, they took me out of jail. Then the second kidnapping began. I want to highlight the decisive role that Camila had during all this process. During the tortures and the kidnapping, Alex Saab was not alone. He received that strength. Here, there was his wife, who as a woman all of the Venezuelan women admire Camila, like as a wife, as a mother. He was in the front line all of the time, and she was there assuming the role of defense of the human rights. She was the spokeswoman of the movement, of the international movement. In the world, all of the people began to express their solidarity and starting to know the cause of Alex Saab, and that was thanks to Camila. I would ask Camila, how could you do this beautiful thing that Alex said, that Camila managed to keep the family united? I'm overwhelmed because it gives me shivers to see your children all united there. Camila was loving, Camila, how could you achieve your mother role of all of the children of Alex Saab, and also be in the front line for the liberation of Alex Saab? You have more knowledge than even the defenders of Alex Saab. She graduated from human rights in July 12th of 2020. Changed my life and changed my family's life. I had to reinvent myself. At the moment we had a baby, a brand new born baby. When Alex was kidnapped, the baby had 5 months. We are in this moment, this beautiful moment, when this nightmare began. I had to reinvent myself. I had to search for help and support in the Venezuelan people. I needed love and solidarity, and everyone to say to me that we were going to overcome this nightmare, and we were going to be victorious. The Venezuelan people gave me love, and they adopted me practically. They united with me in this cause. The movement is formed by a group of patriots of Venezuelans who are convinced that the sanctions are extraterritorial sanctions and illegal sanctions and inhuman sanctions, and it is needed to defend Venezuela and defend President Nicolas Maduro and also the Alex Saab cause. We united quickly. My first public declaration was given almost 1 year after Saab's kidnapping in July 2021. When Alex was kidnapped for the second time. That October 17th, I led the movement of Alex Saab. I wanted to lead that movement. I wanted to support my husband. The movement grew in an impressive way. The movement is formed by people of more than 40 countries around the world. The Venezuelan people, when united to the Alex cause, they didn't even know Alex. Alex didn't even know them either. But the Venezuelan people had no doubt about what Alex was going through and what we were going through as a family. It was very beautiful for me. They never made me feel alone. You always accompanied me during these 3.5 years, and you made this miracle possible. This is really a miracle. We are the proof of what you made. You gave our time and love back into my house. A key role The movement Alex Saab played a key role also because they claimed from every corner of the world Alex's freedom. We achieved big things. We achieved important announcement from the United Nations. On October 14th of 2023, we achieved over 202 non-governmental organizations and peace awarded and lawyers who proclaimed the liberation of Alex Saab to President Joe Biden. Really, they helped me and gave me the strength to keep fighting. They gave me the strength. Alex gave me the strength I needed with his letters. Despite he was living a nightmare and the worst tortures, Alex always sent me love letters, reminding me that he loved me, that he was there for me. On the other part, the Venezuelan people also gave me strength. The Venezuelan people gave Alex strength, sending letters to him to the prison. He received over 100 letters in the prison in the United States, not only from Venezuelans, but also from all around the world through the movement. As the movement received the letters, and then they sent the letters to Alex Saab to the prison in Miami. Those love letters need to be published. It can't be a secret, those love letters from Alex to you, Camila. They are worth gold. The work Camila did was impressive. She led the team in all of the scenarios she could. She just spoke out about Alex's cause. It is really impressive. That strength, you must have received that strength from Camila, Alex. From here in Venezuela, the people taught to us that love is paid with love. All the love you gave, Camila, to the people, and Alex, you were persecuted, but in favor of the people, and the people is going to return to you all the love that you did for them. Another important thing that we say as a movement is to overcome this media campaign, this harmful media campaign that was installed years earlier. They demonized Alex as a person and also us as a family. So it has been very difficult for us to tell our truth. We tell our truth with facts, with the truth. They never gave not a single proof of what Alex was in charge of. They couldn't. They couldn't. I need to say this. The right wing, not only the right wing, not only from the United States, they also try to find leftist figures to use their Twitter and social networks to validate the dirty campaign against Alex. They needed people to divide Chavism and Bolivarianism. They tried to use famous names against us. They failed. Traitors, you also failed, who use your Twitters and social networks to validate the dirty campaigns, to to harm a person, a brave man, that his only fault was to bring the Venezuelan people food and medicines. The truth is the truth, the justice is. This has been the victory of the diplomacy of peace. This has been a historical victory, and they are in pain because they spent millions of dollars in this media war and this demonization of Alex and Venezuela. We are more than decided to defend the truth of Venezuela, because there are a lot of lies to justify policies against Venezuela. We need to fight because these people deserves to be respected and deserves to be defended. This is a loving people that me personally they have given me a lot, and I haven't get this love from any other part of the world. I met Alex at Roma a little more of 10 years. Why did you fall in love with him? He looked at me. We were sitting in different tables at a restaurant in Rome. I saw Alex. He was he had this white shirt, and he smiled at me and saw me and watched me. And that's how I fell in love with him. In a very delicate way, I also looked at him. We look beyond that. We look beyond that. The strength of love is the most powerful strength in the world. When I saw her, I said, this is for me. I just fell in love at the moment. I found her. That's why I say we are brought to this world, and who are we lucky to find? The strength of Camila, her strength, she kept our family together. Any other person would have left. No, she fought for me. She fought for our family and fought for the truth. When I say that she kept me alive, I mean it. Let's applaud Camila. We are taking all of this with very much intelligence and equilibrium, with the Bolivarian diplomacy of peace that we have been building together, thanks to the orientations of Commander Hugo Chavez. And in recent years, we have learned and we've been searching what it's. We have achieved an exchange of this brave man in exchange of a group of men, real criminals. We made this exchange, this humanitarian exchange. What happened those days, Alex? When did you find out that there's a movement trying to achieve your release? On Thursday, December 14th, I was told on December 14th, Thursday, Camila said to me I was in San Vincent and the Grenadines in another victory of the diplomacy of peace of Venezuela in the face-to-face encounter with Guyana president over the Guyana-Esequiba conflict. Well, my wife says to my lawyers that she asked my lawyers if there was any novelty to know of. They talked to the prosecutors, and prosecutors said there's nothing new. My lawyers say I need to ask because Saab needs to know if there's any news about his case, because he knew there was negotiations, there were ongoing negotiations, because he knows that he's not guilty of anything. He committed no crime. They knew that. They knew that clearly. Nothing else happened on December 15th, but then I knew that the pardon was signed on December 15th, but they didn't say anything. On Monday, they took me out of the cell and took me to another cell, to a special cell of glass that they have in the prison. You were released on Wednesday. That means that since Monday you were taken to another cell. What happened there? This is a glass cell of about 3 meters. They had also a small bed. You can rest in that small bed. There was a terrible cold. I was trembling. I had lamps, huge lamps in my face. I was dressed in orange again. In the U.S. they dress in orange all of the criminals who commit. They send all of those people dressed in orange when they commit a crime inside the jail. They said to me that they didn't know what was happening to me. I don't understand, I said. I don't understand why you have me here. I spent 2 days in there with no food and no water, without knowing what was going on, and freezing myself. On Wednesday morning, early morning, at 5 a.m. in the morning, approximately on Wednesday, December the 20th, they took me out of there and took me to the building of the court. I had to wait for another hour. Then they took me to another cell. They still didn't say a word to me. Finally, I ended up inside a car, thanking God, because I knew that I was going to the airport. Your images when the airplane arrived in Venezuela. Oh, when you were at the airport in the U.S., it was still dark. There was no. What happened there when you were at the airport? I entered the airplane with handcuffs in my arms and my feet. There was an envoy, a special envoy of the United States, Robin Casten, officials of the White House, Marshall and other officials. The plane departed, and then that's when they took the handcuffs off me. I have to say that with him and his team, the treatment was excellent. That's when I find out where I was going to. They explained me how was the procedure going to be. They were going to verify who were at the Venezuelan airport. They were going to verify that I was there. It was a protocol that they had to fulfill. That's when we arrived in San Vincent. You didn't know where you were arriving. No, I didn't. That's when the exchange came into force. That's when I saw Jorge Rodriguez. What did you feel when you saw Jorge? I hugged him. I recognized him. The truth is, Jorge Rodriguez, I feel so much appreciation for them. I'm so thankful to them because of their perseverance, of the both of them. Jorge's perseverance. I believe that he had to face day by day, and there's no way to thank them for all of what they did for me. I came to life when I saw him. He said to me, "Don't worry, we are not going to live without you," just in case. You know all of this, of the history of what happens after he arrived in Venezuela, you know, when justice was victorious. You're a good man who has resisted like the phoenix bird. You have been born again, and here you are among us with your wife. Your wife has become a leader of the human rights and the truth and the justice. This is a story of persecution, kidnapping, torture, but that has a final and a happy ending. You and your family. There are a lot of things to tell and say, to learn. How you can learn a lot from pain. Never again, never again. Lie and manipulation and persecution, never again. Never again torture. We need to become a spokesperson of the rights of the people to independence, the right to their own development. No empire must pretend to impose its power in our people, its model and its impositions. It is the 21st century. They have met with the strength of the Venezuelan people, of the Bolivarian people, and those who love these people, this land. They will never be able to. They will never be able to defeat us. Oh, today John Bolton declared. Do you remember who John Bolton is? I have the statement here. AFM of Colombia published his statement. Alex Saab returned to Venezuela like a double agent. The ex-assessor of Trump said, since it became news that the United States, led by Biden, released Alex Saab, there has been a huge controversy. This is the statement of John Bolton. Since Alex arrived in Venezuela, Maduro is happy for his release. However, Saab's arrival could be a setback to Maduro, since he could be a double agent of Joe Biden. Alex Saab could have returned to his country as a double agent,
as an spy.
That's what John Bolton said, ex-assessor of Donald Trump, in dialogue with the FM of RHC of Colombia. I would say, Mr. Bolton, my name is Saab. Alex Saab. Agent 008 at the service of Maduro. Finally, we have a special agent. Enjoy with love, because as you said, this has been a triumph of the love and life under the blessing of God. Enjoy the rest of the year in happiness, in love, and among your family leaders, like you deserve. This is the third podcast that we founded this year. Do not miss it. It has not even a single minute in waste. This podcast is with Alex Saab, a free man, and his great wife and leader, Camila Fabre de Saab. See you next time. Thank you very much.